Today, we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into IntelliJ IDEA. It is a very powerful Java IDE capable of streamlining Java development. One of my favorite softwares to ever use in my whole life. So who I am, my name is Tyler Burke. I graduated from UAlbany in spring 2021. I currently work for the New York State Unified Court System Department of Technology and Court Research. And I'm a full stack Java developer, Gradle build engineer, and onboarding specialist. I really enjoy my job. I have learned a lot of what I know about Java and application development on the job there. And I had never used IntelliJ before working there. So I hope to share my IntelliJ experience with all of you. So the objectives here, we're going to expose the attendees of this workshop to the IDE features that I find to be the most useful or help with the most productivity. Explain the use cases for these features and why I think they're so helpful. Explain some about how to develop your own plugins for IDEA. They provide an excellent development kit. And then explain how these features may apply to other IDEs, languages, and development environments as well. Because while we're focusing on IDEA, most other IDEs can do most of these other things. We'll see that as we go. So the software, forget that it says Eclipse on there. I don't know that we're going to be doing any Eclipse, and this computer actually does not have Eclipse on it. So I will talk about how these features exist in Eclipse and how some of the differences manifest, but we're not really using Eclipse tonight. But we are using IntelliJ. So if you haven't gotten it already, you can download it for free from JetBrains. If you just Google IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition, if you want to follow along with this stuff, you're more than welcome to. It is quite encouraged. So now we go into the actual slideshow. Cool. So the first thing that I think saves the most time is code generation. One of the biggest complaints, if you ask someone, why is Java bad? Why don't you like Java? They talk about how much you need to write. They'll use the expression boilerplate code. It's the same thing every time. You write it so much it feels meaningless. Well, the IDE developers have realized that they can actually make your life a lot easier with some of this stuff. So we're going to go through a few little code generation exercises in the IDE. First, we're going to make a Java class. We're just going to call this driver. It's going to contain our main method. And we're going to start generating some code. We're going to start off, boom, drivers right there. I'm going to type main, then I'm going to type tab. The IDE knows that when I press main tab, I'm interested in making a main method. It's got the whole public static void main string args. That's the first thing someone's going to tell you, like, oh, I hate Java, blah, 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 public static void main string args. Well, main tab. There you go. You can say that faster than they can complain at you. The feature that actually allows that is called live templates, and we'll see more of those later in the workshop. But right there, you get a main method just by typing main tab. So now let's say that we want to have a simple Java application that will print information about a dog, right? We're going to print information about a dog. So I think we want a dog class. We should use object-oriented design principles here. Dog. We'll make a class dog. And what kind of fields do we need for a dog? For simplicity's sake, we'll say string name, int age, and I don't know, string breed name, right? Okay, so I've defined these members for dog, but we don't have any constructors for the dog. We don't have any accessors. Let's actually make these private for the sake of good design. And these are useless to us. So I can start writing out a constructor and go like this public dog. And we can start writing in our parameters here, or we can let the IDE do this for us. So I'm going to highlight the variables I'm interested in. I'm going to then go to generate. I right click, or you can press Alt Insert. We go down to generate, and I'm going to pick constructor. So from this, what constructor fields do we want, or what fields do we want in our constructor as parameters? So I'm going to pick all three, and the IDE generates just here for us a whole constructor. It's got all of the fields there. So now, because I've made these private variables, I am going to generate some getters and setters for them as well. Let's say these dogs are mutable. Doesn't make too much sense with the fields we've defined, but maybe a dog's name can change. So we're going to go generate again. And let's generate both getters and setters. And here we are. We're going to pick all three of our fields again. And voila, we now have all of our getters and setters for the dog class. So that is, how many lines there? Good number of lines, just no thinking involved. If I wasn't explaining this, I could have done this in about 4 seconds. So now we can go to make a dog, new dog, and we have our constructor, so we can call him Fido, lame name for a dog, I suppose. Make him 20 years old, and he will be a Yorkshire Terrier. Okay, so now we're going to print information out about a dog. So one of the easiest ways to print something in Java is to override toString. Well, we can do that, and I can start typing out at override public string toString, or I can go here again. I can right click. I can type generate toString. What do you know? What fields do I want in my toString? Boom. We've got our toString. So now, if we go back to our application, sout tab system.out.println, a built-in live template thing, or that might not be a live template, it might be an autocomplete macro, but alas, we can now just type out D for dog, the dog we defined, and we can run our program by pressing this run button. And we will have, hopefully, information about our dog on the screen. There we go. So Fido, breed name, and it lists out all the fields. You can change this toString however you want. I'd personally prefer that with new lines in most contexts, but there we go. We have developed a simple application without really writing any code. The only code I typed were the names of the variables and this actual application driver. So that is one way that we can generate code. So now, let's say we're doing some software development and we want to make sure our code is maintained well over time. So we want to write a unit test for it. Well, our friend, the generate button, let's go down here again, generate test. Create test in the same source root? Sure, why not? Usually you'd want to separate these off to another directory just for file organization, and then you can more easily separate the test code from the production code. You don't deploy your unit tests out to production most of the time. So our class is called driver. This is a lame unit testing scenario, but yeah, we'll call it driver test destination package, and we're just going to see test main. That's kind of lame as a unit test, but we'll pick the method that we want to test, and it will automatically go out here and make us a unit test class. We have to import JUnit. Let's go JUnit 4. Okay. I think this needs to be JUnit 5 for Jupyter. There we go. So here we've got a unit test here. All this, you don't need to remember what files you import. You don't need to remember your test annotation. You don't need to do one for each of your methods. If I had 50 methods here in driver, I would have, let's do it for dog here. It'll be a better example of why this is powerful if we use dog, generate, test, dog test, and now we have all of these methods. It's not going to work. Maybe it was enter, control A, enter. We get all of these methods here, and we can generate unit tests for them. Boom. So now we would just write in the actual unit test code, and all of this is set up for us, all of these imports, boom, with just right-click, generate, test, and then configure the test. And as you begin to write more complicated tests, that dialogue that I pretty much put nothing into can become even more powerful and save you thinking time. So yeah, that is some of the features that come with the code generation button. But they do not end there as far as code generate button is concerned. Got plenty of other good things here. So this is another cool feature. Let us do some kind of, let's make a helper method. So int x equals 4, int y equals 5, and int z equals 6. So I want to make a method that totals up 3 numbers and prints it out. And now let's do something a little better than that. Arraylist, integer, import, show context actions, import, right click, show context actions, import, generates your import statement for any code that's on your class path. array list and equals new array list. And here we will add them all these three integers to that array list. The array list has very little to do with the actual example here, so don't focus too much on the context of adding three numbers together or performing operations on them. Okay, so we've added all of our elements to our array list here, and let's just say for int I in array list s out I. We're just going to print out the numbers. Print out all the numbers in a list, but we're going to print something else so it's meaningful instead of just printing the list itself. Woohoo. So now here we are, and it's just going to print out all the numbers. But let's say I now have another array list to deal with. And array list 2. And we're going to do something else here. So we've got the same thing, but we're going to do it for array list 2. So what I'm interested in doing now is I'm going to highlight this code. I'm going to go to show context actions and extract method. It's going to ask me what I want it to be, and it will be called print elements in list. I press enter. Do you want to replace this occurrence? It's going to now show me the first place that it's going to try to perform this replacement. I'm going to say yes. And then it found the other place that we had the same code. The IDE looks for it. And now we've got our own method down here that prints all the elements in the list, quickly reducing duplicated code. Sometimes if your coworkers do development in an environment that isn't IntelliJ, like Eclipse that doesn't have such a robust, I don't even know what you call it, linting system, parsing system, live analysis system, you might be able to just make the code better with right-click refactor, right-click extract method right there. And yeah, there we are for some code generation stuff. Reduce the time you spend writing code, increase the time you spend solving problems. So we'll return here briefly to the PowerPoint. And next, we will talk about troubleshooting, debugging, and error resolution. So as computer science students, many people have dealt with debugging. They've got their own style of debugging. There's a number of different tactics, strategies, and tools that you can use to troubleshoot your applications and find the answers to your problems. IntelliJ IDEA provides us with a very, very powerful, very flexible, and very useful debugger. And while this application isn't particularly the most interesting to debug, I think we can use it just fine to kind of showcase some of the stuff that this can do. So the first thing to start looking at debugging in IntelliJ is setting a breakpoint at the point in the code that you're interested in seeing the application. So let's say we're interested in seeing what happens on line 14. And keep in mind, this will stop the code before line 14 gets executed. So we're going to now, instead of clicking the play button, we'll click the debug button, and we will launch the application in debug mode. And behind the scenes, IntelliJ is actually attaching a debugger to the Java process and reading from it, but you don't have to do that. You can do this with Java options. I don't even know those options off the top of my head. This takes all the work out of it. So now we're stopped here on line 14. If we tune our attention down to the bottom here, we can see everything in the memory of our application right now. So we see D, it's a type dog. It's at location 847. That's like the reference ID. If you were to print dog, it would say dog that. The dog toString, it actually shows you the toString of any object that appears in this browser by default. You can reconfigure it to show something else if you so choose as well. And break down dog name, and then like the string object actually has more properties that you usually don't think of or look into. And you can just see going on and on and on and on and on down here. These primitives, you got the ints as well, the array list, all of this stuff. It's kind of neat. But now, even better, we can, while the code is suspended, and generally only while the code is suspended, we can open up the expression evaluator. And this expression evaluator allows me to execute Java code at this very point in the application. So right now we see y equals 5, and we're about to try to add it to the array list. If I instead, first we'll just do s out, or no, that won't work in this box. System No, we'll just type y. We'll just evaluate y. What is y right now? Evaluate. Y is 5. So now we're going to evaluate y equals 7. Y is 7 now. So now if we type y this time, y is 7. So if we were to continue the application, and I'll do so by pressing the resume program button, bound to F9 by default, we're going to see in the console here that it is no longer 4, 5, 6, despite the code only ever adding 4, 5, and 6. We suspended the code before 5 was added, changed its value to 7, and now we have 4, 7, 6 printed out. That is very useful, not only from a debugging standpoint, like, oh, imagine if I had just done this instead. How would it handle this edge case? How would it handle that edge case without having to write a driver test for it? You can even use this in certain production contexts to fix problems. If there's a bug in the code that you can fix locally, or you just have to get around one null pointer that the application's database manager isn't setting correctly, open production up, run the application, connect to your server, and make the edit you need at runtime. And you can go forward with it without ever rebuilding the software. So that's kind of neat as well. That is the first of the debugging tools that we have available to us. The next thing is when we're in the debugger, we're going to go back, we're going to suspend again. We are going to find something called watches. We can use a watch. So this isn't the best. Oh yeah, so you right click, evaluate expression. And there's another cool feature within IntelliJ, Control-Shift-A. This will be the actions search. We see a search here. You can search all classes, files, actions, but Control-Shift-A goes to actions. You can think of anything you let's say refactor, and it will show all of the actions that the IDE recognizes with that name. My favorite user is plugins. I don't know how to get plugins from the context menu. Boom, we'll go into plugins. So I've got these plugins already installed on here, but let's update it. I think are they enabled? I was hoping they weren't enabled so we could see some of the cool things that they do. But IntelliJ has some great plugins. Rainbow brackets, I should be able to disable them so we can see the magic that they were providing. And perhaps my personal favorite, neon progress bar. Your loading bar throughout the application is actually replaced with the magical cat. There are other progress bars too, in case you're interested. You got Mario progress bar, a duck, Pokemon trainer, Yo. I don't even know what that one is. Oh, there's a number of them, including Minecraft. That's cool. Okay, so yeah, there's some plugins. We're going to talk more about plugins later, so I don't want to get too stale on that. So we can now add watches. So we're going to right click on a variable down here, and we're going to decide to watch it. So we're going to make a new watch. It didn't grab the variable. That might be because it's primitive. So we're just going to say we're going to watch X. So X equals 4. In this case, X doesn't really ever get reassigned, so the watch isn't that meaningful. But let's say X is constantly getting reassigned. You're inside a game loop, and that object is actually buried deep within. So let's make a more meaningful one, actually. Screw what I'm saying here. So we'll do dog, or no, d.get breed name. So let's say your application was actually to change the dog's breed name every 5 iterations of the loop or something. This watch would allow you to, without digging through this dog object. Again, with this toString, it's not the greatest example of why the watches are useful, but you can set them. Even more interesting, let's say you're doing some math and you need to watch x plus 7. X plus 7 equals 11. You don't even store that in your application anywhere, but you can watch it as your application goes on. So that can be interesting as well to use. Similarly, you can check Boolean expressions here. So we'll go another new watch. Oh, that's the add to watches that I was trying to do earlier. So where's the new watch? Here we go. New watch. We will do x equals y. X equals y is false. So if you want to check if a condition has been met throughout the application that you're not currently checking with a Boolean for whatever memory saving reasons, you don't want to edit your code to track it. I just remember in school, I was always, if I found a problem, I'd make 600 system.out.println statements, and I'd wonder why they didn't work, and then I'd mistype one or forget that I didn't add a 1 to the end of it, so I had 2 that were the same thing, and I was misinterpreting them. I find the debugger has drastically reduced my capacity to do that. Debugger, not unique at all to IntelliJ, not even unique to visual IDEs. I mean, the GCC has been around since the existence of C, or the GDB since the existence of the GCC, or very shortly thereafter. Much less fun to use, much less graphical, but still very useful. GDB is good stuff. That's GNU Debugger. Yeah, so that is some of the coolest stuff we can do with the debugger. There are also some things to watch out for, like the red lines that you see on Microsoft PowerPoint when you misspell the word workshop. We've got some red lines that I've noticed some people don't always pay attention to. Look at this. This is now turned red. This array list is red. Huh. Something I must have done something wrong here. Well, let's right click and see if it has any suggestions. It does not perform spell corrections for you. So just notice that it's red and fix it. Figure out why. Okay, so I don't know if it's next on the presentation, but I'm going to go into something next. The debugger, perfect, we went over that from current slide. Debugger, yep. Breakpoints, we talked about breakpoints. Watches, awesome. Expression evaluator, cool. Console output and JVM verbosity flags. We will actually save that for a little later because nobody really cares about JVM verbosity flags at this point in things. Refactoring, this was the next thing I wanted to talk about. So to refactor something, just change kind of the mechanisms by how it works, not always changing the functionality, but let's say that you had an old interface that was deprecated and someone wrote you a new one and it's the company standard to use the new one, you would refactor the old code to use the new interface. So IDEA, IntelliJ makes it very, very easy to perform such refactorings. So I think that the name Arraylist might not be very specific. Let's start with D. Dog is not very specific, right? Who's reading that? Dog D equals something? I don't know. If there's more dogs, that's going to get hard to keep track of. So we'll go to refactor. Let's rename. Let's rename it. So we'll do something really annoying and long to type to show that this is cool. Okay, and every instance of D throughout the whole program has been replaced with the text that I just did there. Similarly, we'll do it with X and we'll make it something. Refactor, rename, blah. And there we are. It renames it throughout the whole application. We see it down here. Awesome. That also works with files. So we can go over here. Let's say dog is not a good name. And actually just want to verify something here. What fields do we have? Age, breed, name. Okay, yeah, so dog, this could actually be any animal with the fields we've given it. So let's say we don't want it to be dog anymore and we want this program to be cat. This class. Every instance of dog, based on how you do this, if you want to rename tests, fine. If you want to rename variables, it lets you configure it. Let's do all of it. Refactor, and it shows all the instances here. If we make this window a little bigger, this is where we found dog test. We want to rename it to cat test. It wasn't even named dog, and the IDE is saying, hey, this is associated with the dog class. It has dog in its name. Maybe you want to rename that too. And sure, why not? Select all. There's only one in the list, so it's kind of trivial. But dog test is no more, dog is no more, and we've just switched our whole application toward using a cat without ever really, I mean, we typed cat once, and we've got it all throughout our application. And with just 3 files, 4 files on your class path, that's not too significant. But imagine you have an actual 200,000 files, of which 700 of them need to be renamed. And you've got 5 other tasks you got to do. I think the refactor button saves you a lot of time, especially with how well version controlling actually logs stuff. So it's like, oh, I shouldn't have touched that file. That's crazy. Why am I committing 400,000 files? I did something wrong with the refactor button. But as a first crack effort, you can save yourself a lot of time. One of my favorite things to do is to barely use really crap variable names when I'm programming something locally, X, Y, Z, int A, I don't care, because I can just refactor it after. Int value at the beginning, during initialization, before phase 2. Great, and I just typed X the whole time. I never had to type that big long name, and I still have a big long variable name that's descriptive for other people that might need to use it. So that is some of the cool refactor button stuff. We can do more with the refactor button, though. It does not end there. Let's say we want to safe delete. For the sake of maintaining the code we have on the screen, we're not going to safe delete anything, but let's introduce a field. So instead, this is a local method. We're going to say, no, we don't want it to be a local method anymore. It's now a field. We've taken it from our driver body, and now it's a static field right in our application. If this were not in a static context, it would probably be extracted not as static, or there might be a dialog here. I didn't pay enough attention to what I was clicking. Generally, all of these things are configured. If you see that it's static here, there's a way to generate it not as static as well, is the point I'm trying to get at. Copyright. Let's just generate some copyright. Sure. Okay, I haven't configured my copyrights yet, but if you wanted to configure some copyrights, I don't know that I've ever actually done this, but there should be a pretty easy way to do it. And Tyler, copyright text, awesome, some lorem ipsum, okay. So now I should be able to go into generate and copyright. Okay, perhaps I need to now go add. Okay, there we go. So now, I hope, without further ado, we can generate some copyright. And it seems to have succeeded. Awesome, my whole copyright message is at the top. And you can use that for anything. It doesn't really have to be a copyright message. It gives you total control over it. If you want to put a picture of something at the top of every file after you press that button, go for it. Another cool code generation thing that you only have to type once and you can put it everywhere. Different profiles, different developers, share a computer with someone, you can set it up for them as well. So those are some of the coolest little refactoring tasks. There are other things that basically when you're doing certain when you right click on certain things, they're not eligible for a certain type of refactoring. So if you go up to here, you can see other things like migrate to Android X. You know, I'm not going to do that to int X in my main method. I can't just migrate that to Android X. But if I have a whole application or a whole project that's compatible, let's migrate it to Android X. Frankly, I don't know what Android X is, but you can migrate to it with this refactor button. Copy class, another great one. I don't want to spend too much time on the refactoring, but copy class. So you can copy a class, but better than just copying the class, renaming it, and then going through painstakingly changing all the members. It will change, like let's say you reference that, like here, let's just do some copy class. So cat, oops, cancel. We don't want to move cat. Cat, we are going to go to refactor. And then we will go to copy class. And what is the new name going to be? It's going to be Mark. No, it's a name. I shouldn't use real names. Dog. Why not? Destination package. We'll put it in its own package too. Oh, my free Zoom meeting is running out. That's a shame. Okay. The package doesn't exist. Will it offer to make it for me? No, it will not. So we can make it here, make the dog package, and then we can put it in the dog package. And boom, just like that, I've copied the class and put it into its own package. It took care of the package statement. When I press compile, it's going to compile, and I don't need to think twice about it, which is kind of neat. So that is enough on refactoring for right now. IDE personalization. There's a lot of really cool things that you can get rolling in here. I don't know all of the IDE personalization features, I'll admit that right now, but I will showcase some of the ones that I find to be the most useful, helpful, or pleasurable to look at. So we'll start with, again, we'll go to plugins, and we have the Nan progress bar. That's pretty cool. I will make it a point to get that on the screen if it hasn't been already. We've updated these, so I'm gonna restart the IDE there. And we will see how they improve things and how they interact with themes to get us even better looking code. So right now, looking at the screen, oh, there's a Nan cat if you call it on the bottom there. But right now, I don't find that this screen is colorful enough for me. I don't like this amount of color on my screen. So I want to get a new theme. We'll go to plugins. Because the colors are very useful for me to keep track of what is a static member, what is a final member, what is a parameter variable, what's an object, what's a primitive, what's not, and you can get all those colored. So if we go to Marketplace, there's a really good one. I think it's One Dark, Atom One Dark theme, awesome. This has some great coloring. It's very soothing on the eye. I mean, to me, I find it to be a nice color. The blue is nice. But then notice here, we get all of these colors. Member variables are red, keywords are purple, parameters are gold, brackets are gold, parentheses or Brackets for code blocks each correspond to each other. So let's get some complicated bracket structure going on here. We got the green. We'll just do like if x equals 5. That has to be, oh, I got rid of x, blah, 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 blah. Y equals 5. If z equals 6. Notice because of that rainbow brackets, this has a nice light blue bracket. This has a dark blue bracket. This up here has a green bracket. So if this line on the side that shows you where your brackets end aren't enough, you can just keep your eyes open for the color of the bracket that you're looking at. That gold bracket at the top, follow it all the way down. And there we are. My next favorite plugin for saving time and personalizing my IDE experience is giving my IDE the support to open jar files right in the side there. Otherwise, I'd have to open the file explorer, start extracting them, or opening them in something that can read them, like WinRAR. And yeah, so we'll go back to plugins here. And this one is called File Expander. I need to get a jar file. File space expander. We got File Expander, Mr. Charles Wu here. Reset the, I don't actually know what reset does there. I'm not certain. Okay. Well, now I need to get a jar file. So build project, let's just make a jar file. How about that? And I will explain this if it's not too much of a lift. Open module settings, artifacts, add jar, perfect. From modules with dependencies, workshop, main class, driver. And we want to extract a target jar, perfect. And that's the manifest, awesome. We don't want our tests in our jar. And boom, there we go. We've actually just made a jar. And you can set up a jar by just using jar and then your class name, and you can package up your jar that way. Or you can delegate it to this. So now I've said I want that jar to be built. So I'm going to press the hammer to use the idea build. And with any luck, we should get our jar. Where did it go? Let's see where it puts our jar. I might not have told it where. Module settings. Artifacts. Oh, I guess I never pressed apply for my jar. There we go. Okay. Extract a target jar. Workshop.jar. It's getting all our JUnit stuff too. That's fine. Awesome. Okay. And now, I don't know what that is actually. We're going to rerun the build. It is my hope that we get our jar file. Workshop, manifest. Why is it not actually making the? Oh, it is. It might be. No, it's not. I'm still convinced I'm putting it in the wrong place. So bear with me. There's a better way to make jar files, and that's why I'm not familiar with this way, but that is coming up in a moment. You know, actually, this is less important because you don't do this in school, really. So we'll move on to things that might help. More personalization. So sometimes you'll be sharing your screen with someone on something like Microsoft Teams or Zoom, and they will have a small monitor. And it will be hard to show them anything. So if you go in here to font, let's say we want to make the font 18 arbitrarily. Get a little preview there. And let's say we want these people to have a lot of space to focus in on our lines. So we'll make it, oh, 5's huge. So do 1.5. And now our lines are going to be more spaced with much larger font. Let's say that our readers have some word processing issues and we want to make it more accessible. And we'll use like Comic Sans or something, the world's most accessible font for the literature. Boom. So now we are programming in giant Comic Sans font. I guess it's not that giant, but relatively speaking, it is much larger and Comic Sans. If you want to program in Wingdings, the option is there for you. Other things, let's say you downloaded these plugins, you downloaded the themes, and it was almost there. You really just hate that background or something. We can go into editor, color scheme. Well, let's let the theme do that management though. Code style, Java. Okay. Well, do we want to use a tab character or do we want to use smart tabs? By default, no tab character, it's all spaces. You can change the spaces and how they work when you type like for and then tab to finish a keyword, how it handles all of that. Wrapping in braces, anything you can think of about how the IDE, like when the IDE makes a decision that you don't, here you can tell it how to do so. So if you use like an autocomplete and it makes something look really nasty, you can do it here. All right, we're going to go back into here, and there is another cool thing that we can do that I should have showed with code generation, but since it's so quick, we will do it now. So Arraylist.stream, and then we're going to do for each So for each object in this array list, we're going to print out O, or print out the object. And let's see what the IDE is telling us. We can replace stream with a for each loop, because maybe this is not a good use case for stream. They're generally interchangeable. Sometimes stream will do better. Sometimes the collection without the stream will do better, just in for each, like enhanced for loop. One thing I like to keep in mind, if you know it won't go through the whole thing, the stream is often better performance-wise. It's easier to work with parallel with streams if you set them up correctly as well. So there are reasons to swap back and forth. So now instead of using the stream, we can just call arraylist.forEach. And this will do, this is equivalent to for int I in arraylist s out I. So these things are completely equivalent here. We're going to iterate through the whole thing and print each one as we see it. And you can convert back and forth between the two. I believe I should be able to go here, replace with for each, and it replaces that way. I don't know if this one will suggest stream. It probably is realizing stream is overkill for this and there's no benefit to it. Yep. So you can replace things that it sees as a bad pattern with a better pattern. And it just shows it to you. The big secret there, or not even the secret, the thing to keep in mind, right click, show context actions. So like, this isn't even saying something's wrong. What are some context actions? Nothing. Okay, that's a bad example. Show context actions here, nothing. Okay, sometimes this gives you some interesting stuff. Split into declaration and assignment. Okay, that's interesting enough. Boom, we've split it into declaration and assignment. After some brief technical difficulties, we have returned. Okay, so we've talked about refactoring, we've talked about some code generation. Let's go see what is next on the agenda. Did some IDE personalization, and now the PowerPoint's messed up. Plugins, we've already looked at some plugins. Let's do a couple more plugins that might be useful and may help save time down the road. The coolest one I have seen to date, I don't use it as much as I should, honestly, is Key Promoter X. So what Key Promoter X does is it listens to all the keys you type while IntelliJ is open and will tell you, not even the keys you type, sorry, it does not listen to the keys you type, that would be bad. What it does is it listens to what buttons you click and what IDE actions happen and tells you, hey, you missed a hotkey. Hey, you click the run button for the 4,000th time. You know you can press F5. And it has this nice little menu that we'll see after we restart that shows you all of the hotkeys you miss. My old supervisor used this notoriously, and you'd actually see some of his numbers like, wow, he's hotkeyed that more than he's clicked it. That's crazy. At least to me, who doesn't use a lot of hotkeys, I'm clicking everything, and as a result, moving kind of slowly. I don't know if we can ever be Vim users with mice, but with this key promoter thing, you might be pretty quick. So I haven't missed any shortcuts yet because I haven't done anything since installing the plugin. Let's click here. I missed Shift F10. Wow, why did I click that? I could just go Shift F10 and boom, it ran it again. I didn't have to do it. So let's say I press this. I want to find where I'm at in this current file in the browser, in the file explorer. That one's not bound to anything. Let's try build. I clicked build, I missed. I should have used the hotkey for build. That's Control F9. Boom. And it's build. 1 times missed, 1 times used. Debug. Shift F9. Right there. Boom. And as you use this, you will learn more quickly how terrible you are at hotkeys if you're anything like me. Maybe use all these to begin with, and your numbers would start out with more used than missed, but there's some pretty wonky hotkeys, like you get into like a Control-Shift-A or something. Or if you go up here and using this menu, rename. Wow, I missed the rename hotkey. I wouldn't even think there is a rename hotkey. Boom, Shift F6. Is there a hotkey to build my artifacts? This is why my jar didn't get built. And there we go. Here comes our jar. Yes, I forgot to run the build artifacts action. Boom, workshop.jar. I actually have my jar. Let's run the jar. Oh, sick. The jar file ran. I could send this to you and you could just run this jar file. Have you ever tried to share your Java application with someone? And they're like, oh, I don't have Java. I don't know how to make a batch file. Wait, why did it go away? Because they didn't pause the terminal. Well, you can generate jar files without really even knowing how jar files work using IntelliJ IDEA. It's kind of neat, and I'm glad we found that going back. That being said, key promoter X is pretty sweet. Let's go back to plugins. We got file expander, we showed some themes, we showed key promoter X. Let's say you're a Rust programmer and you're one of those, just boom, download Rust plugin for IntelliJ. I don't know what that would do exactly. I don't know Rust, but you got it. There are plenty of other things here. Oh, here's a great one, UML. Everybody has probably had an assignment where they had to make UML. Well, there's a number of UML generation solutions. I don't know which one is, I don't know what's good. Maybe we'll just get the simple UML generator. I don't know how it works, but we'll see if we can get it working. And we should probably get the plant UML parser as well. Although I'm not too sure. But let's pick our class and then hopefully, wait, does it want me to restart? Plugins installed. Did it not go? I must not have grabbed it. UML generator. Awesome. Okay. Installed. Oh. Installed. UML generator. Oh, I had to search. Okay, so now that we have the UML generator, click on the UML generator button on the right side of the IDE. Awesome. Let's see, do we have the UML generator button on the right side of the IDE? I do not see it. That is a shame, UML generator. All right, won't waste more time on that. There are working UML generation solutions. Wait, is that it? No, it's not. JetBrains Space is similar to Code with Me, I think they call it in Visual Studio, Code with Me. Yep, JetBrains has that as well, if that's your favorite feature. Yep, so plugins, lots of plugins, different languages. If you were to ever get the ultimate edition of this IDE, crazy to say, I kind of recommend it. Honestly, you can do so much stuff. You can create React apps right out of the box. Never type npm anything, just React app right out of the box. In IntelliJ, kind of cool. Probably not the best development environment for that kind of stuff, but if it's a smaller component to your project and you've got a beefy Java backend and you just want some simple React front end, why ever leave IntelliJ? You can do JavaScript in here as well. The next thing, it's a little bit out of order, but I'd like to show it now. It's something called a scratch file. So a scratch file, you get to pick what kind of syntax or what kind of like compiler it needs. I'm going to pick Java because we're doing Java, and it just makes this file. This file does not get saved to any of your project directories. It gets saved to this like magical IntelliJ scratch file directory that's way out of sight, out of mind, and it won't accidentally ever, under any circumstance, end up built into your final product. But I just have this and I can just run some code. So we just do like, how's that? Hello from scratch file. So if I want to see like, oh, hey, does this print out that? Is this object immutable in this capacity? I can just test it out here in these scratch files. And let's say I want to instead take this scratch file and write it in Groovy. We can write it in Groovy as well. Groovy is another JVM language. It is, I think it's still fully compatible with Java, a little bit more dynamic and less intuitive at first because the types become kind of obscured, but you can develop things in it faster when you get into some of the map notations. I'm not going to do anything too complicated though. Println, or not, println, hello. And let's run in here, run scratch one. It does not. Groovy. Okay, this does not have the Groovy script runner. This computer probably did not install it. Alas, let's see if we can pop it on real quick. Okay, it supports other languages. I don't want to fight with Groovy right now. But you can do other languages, other syntaxes. Let's say you just want to test out some CSS. We'll do that example as well. Let's go in here, new, scratch file, CSS, syntax highlighting only. Boom. Are supported. Oh, this is trying to sell me on Ultimate. Maybe if you're doing web development, this isn't the best place to edit your CSS files. Who really associates those with Java anyway? But we'll just do like dot head content width 100% or something like that. I need another tag to get it all lit up, but I think it's actually trying to hide it from me because I don't have Ultimate. But you can get CSS files to work, especially with the Ultimate one. Those are scratch files. The next thing, this is useful, I find, more when working with databases. At least I've used it more, but you can record macros. So I'll go in here, we'll type in macros, start macro recording, we'll type database schema dot Control-Shift-A, stop macro recording. We'll name our macro, we'll call this schema dot. Now I've misspelled it, but that's not that big of a deal. If you've ever used a macro recording software before and you put in the wrong action and you have to redo the whole thing, that's pretty frustrating if you ask me. This system, a little better. So if we go in here, macros, we'll pull up all of my macros, edit macros, schema dot. So as we see here, I messed up and I put this extra, does it let me edit the step? Maybe it doesn't. Let's see, edit schema dot. Okay, that's fine. But why wouldn't I want to change the text? Okay, edit. Get rid of that, get rid of that. Fine, let's pretend I don't want to retype the text. Fine. Key map. So now we're going to our key map and we're going to map our macro to an action. It's not the key map. Not reference to a well, it's hot. I'm trying to remember the name of the action to pull up the macro manager, the key map manager. So we can probably go into settings, key map. Oh, all right, that's kind of silly, but here we are. Key map for Windows, macros, schema, edit shortcuts. We're going to add a keyboard shortcut. The one I use at work for this is Alt-U. My schema name begins with a U. So now, after taking 10 minutes to find the menu, we can actually bind that. So anytime I'm in here, I just go Alt-U, boom, we got database schema. That could be system.out.println. I just use sout tab for that. But whatever you can think of, it doesn't even need to be typing code. You can just have it enter stuff. The macro actions are really useful. I think you can even do like fire off IDE actions. Like you could do type that, build the software, delete a file, rebuild the software, refactor to Android X, migrate, whatever that was, all in these macros. When you do a lot of database programming and you might be going across schemas or using an account that doesn't have schema ownership, you may find yourself fully qualifying a lot of table names. And I don't want to type that every time, so I can just say Alt-U, boom, Alt-U, Alt-U. Instead of typing use CMS, blah, 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 which is superior in my eyes. So like database schema dot table instead of database schema dot table. And I think it's even faster than going through those lists when you have more than one eligible item. Version control integration. So everybody at this point has probably used version control in one capacity or another, be it Git or Subversion. Even, I mean, version control, you can do that with just a file says, just folders can be version control. IntelliJ makes it really easy to work with all of the major version control systems that are still in use today. So we'll start off, let's just get a project from Git. How does that sound? New, and we're going to do project from version control. I'm going to go here to my browser. I should have, let's grab this one. Going to get this Git link once it works, or it won't. Is the browser crash? It does appear the browser's crashed. It was, okay, cool. So now I'm going to get my link for my Git. Actually, you could go here. It's code. Here's the link. Grab it, copy it. Go down here. Here's my URL. Git is not installed. Oh, well, that's better than getting to the console and saying Git is not a recognized command. Is it not? Boom. Let's install Git. It's finding it. It knows I'm on Windows. I don't even need to pick the right installer link. Easier than ever before. While this is happening, there's the Nan cat, by the way, you can also link up your GitHub account directly. Since this isn't my computer, I don't want to cache that on someone else's settings, but you can, so then I might have to show some of this stuff. I'm going to clone this repository. Let's start there. So it should go out, and after a minute or two, it's going to download it, and it not only will download it, it will start an IntelliJ project with those files. So now it asked me if I wanted to open in this window or another window. I chose this window. And we have our project here, Project Explorer, boom, SRC. And this is just kind of a mess of something that I started a long time ago. So we're not going to go through it unless it's relevant to the rest of the IDE features. But we've downloaded our whole project and it's ready to go from Git just by going to New, Project from Version Control, Git. So now, what are the odds I remember my Git password? Pretty bleak right now, but we'll try. We will try to, I'm going to try to make an update. Meaningful comment. So now I should be able to go to Git, push, or Git commit. So here, over here, you see the changes editor on the left-hand side of the screen. We have plenty of things that we're able to change. I'm just going to commit the one file that I made here, and this should tell us, this is showing me what I've actually changed, the file diff over here. And this diff, instead of having to X out of it, you can just go back over here if you wanted to look at it. You don't know what you're looking at, you want to look at a different file. It actually opens up the diff as a tab in your window. So we can go down here and we're going to commit our file. Let's make it a commit message. Okay, let's get rid of that. A commit message, adding meaningful comment. We don't need to amend anything. Let's say we're going to sign off the commit. I want to sign this off. This is something that some repositories will need you to do or require you do before they even think of pulling your code. So you can sign off the commit right easy from a GUI. If there's a git command you can do. Geez, I don't remember. If someone else knows the command to sign off the top of your head, I welcome you to shout it out now. But you can sign it off. You can do other options here. Reformat the code, and that will use the IDEs formatting settings that you've configured. I don't know why you wouldn't do that before you're trying to commit it, but as a last-ditch effort, you can configure it to do so. So now, if we could zoom out of the way here, I can either commit or commit and push. Who wants to git commit, then git push their own library? Commit and push. And now this might be a problem because this git username is not defined. Let's just pretend this works, and I'm not going to break someone else's IDE and cache all my settings in there, but you can interact directly with GitHub right from here, very similar to the GitHub desktop app. You can view logs on Git. Let's talk a little more about that. We can go into here to Git, see what else we got. BCS operations, Git clone, manage remotes. You can rebase, you can pull, you can fetch, show Git log, reset to head, new branch, new tag. You got it all right from the GUI. And here's the git log, nice and easy, searchable. You can search this. I spelled spell wrong, but I should have that in a commit. Inventory dialog finished, spells and enemies started. Boom, I can search the git log for what I'm interested in with all the same UI that I'm familiar with. I have not used all these search filters. You can check different paths, different dates, the user, the branch. For your own private repository with funny commits, that might not be a big deal, but for a huge repository with hundreds of thousands of commits over 20 years, can be pretty effective to have these search tools versus scrolling through an actual browser-based git log or something like that, where it's not rendered in such a well designed fashion. Similarly, in addition to Git, while it's not set up because by default nobody uses it, there is a plugin for Subversion, which is the kind of the older answer to version control. It is, unlike Git, it is centralized. So there are some differences in how the repository actually interacts with the computer and how it manages changes. We won't get too far into that, but it is not just Git that you can do this version control stuff with, and a very similar GUI where you can commit, update, push, all that. SVN uses different diction is available to you in IntelliJ. So if you're frustrated with version control, you're tired of using the browser, you think the GitHub desktop app is bloatware, you can do it in IntelliJ. Okay, talked about Subversion. Build tool integration. Now, I don't think build tools are the most prevalent in undergrad settings. However, they're pretty important, and with the ever-growing prevalence of I don't know, framework-based web development and mobile applications, they're becoming ever the more popular. I should enforce that build tools are by no means a new concept, though. If we go back to like C programming language make, everyone's probably heard at least maybe in 333 class of a make file, if you haven't made one yourself, using just GCC and then my class and then all these flags. That gets tedious to do over and over and over again. You know, sometimes I'll compile code like 1,000 times in a day. I don't want to type 1,000 command line commands before my device has enough memory to cache everything and all that. Yeah, so you can do a lot of cool things with modern build tools that I think are so far superior to what make used to do, albeit make in context is 40 years older, so that's impressive for its own 50 years older. That's impressive in its own right, but let's talk about how we can use some major build tools with IntelliJ. So we'll start a new project, and I'm going to make this new project, it's going to be a Gradle project. Android uses Gradle, good Java applications use Gradle, a lot of the world is switching to Gradle. Really powerful build tool. I would like to do a whole workshop just on cool things with Gradle. I used to hate it. Anytime I would download code and I saw Gradle and those funny icons for the property files, I quit. I hated it. It's like, wow, I don't get this at all. It looks like XML. I would run away from it. But then I was forced to use it, and it just speaks for itself in terms of how powerful it is. Now, if I can make this taskbar go away, I can actually press the confirm button. So we're going to make it a Java Gradle project. Okay, cannot find supported Gradle version for Java 17. Do I want to proceed with Java 17 and Gradle 7.1? No, we don't want to do that. We need to update this, I would think. Why is it suggesting that? Can we just go back to Java 11? Yeah, let's go back to Java 11. We're going to just go get our JDK. If anyone else hates the Sun Java installation website and doesn't want to end up accidentally downloading the Oracle JDK, you can download whatever JDK you want really quickly. Eclipse's one is great. Timurin, whatever version you want Java 11. For whatever reason you want 13 through 16, grab those. Whatever it is, the latest Java, you can get it right here, download. It will go through and install it. You never have to see that crap Java Windows installer. It will not install the Java auto updater that will present itself to you every time you tune your computer on until the end of time. Really convenient to do that. So now we're on Java 11. That's better with this version of Gradle. For whatever reason, her computer isn't updated to use the newest Gradle. That being said, we will make a demo project, and instead of having to do anything whatsoever to get this working and configured right out of the box, the IDE is going to make me a build.gradle file and a settings.gradle file. And then when IntelliJ IDEA detects a Gradle file that's called build.gradle, or I think settings.gradle, either or, it will, if the project is not already opened as a Gradle project, it will go through and begin the process of syncing it up as a Gradle project, and will unlock a lot of functionality right out of the box without ever having to type this. And if you're just getting into using things like build tools, having the stuff to do this boilerplate can be a big deal. You know, it took me a while before it made sense to me what this group version is kind of intuitive, but group, maybe that's not a package name. Maybe I didn't know this dependencies block. Why is JUnit in there? When you're first seeing this, you might not know what JUnit is. That's a unit testing thing we had used earlier. And it just saves you the time of doing it as well. Settings.gradle, not too much, but you can change the root project here. There's a ton of stuff though right here. It's currently building. After this is done, we're going to get some source folders, and that will kind of look more familiar like our regular Java stuff. But right now, this seems like it's taking forever. Why do I want my project to take forever? Well, it's actually building caches on your hard drive. This might be downloading a ton of stuff for Gradle to actually work and work its magic, but the big thing to me that makes it so superior is it has a build cache. And by that, I mean to say, every time you, within your build scripts, define something as an input or an output to the compilation task or to the whole build, when I say the difference between build and compilation, not only are you compiling files, but you're also repackaging them, you're distributing them. You might be sending out emails as part of your build. You might be linking with your continuous integration pipeline to fire off some tests on a box bigger than the one you're building from. Tons of different things you can do from within the build. You are able to cache them. So if the computer, what it'll do is it'll create a hash of the file for everything that's flagged input and output. And if it detects a build that has the same inputs for a particular thing, it knows the outputs will be the same, and it won't bother rerunning the compilation. And with absolute certainty, I shouldn't say absolute certainty, with, in my experience, 98+% certainty, the cache will succeed and your build will be cut down from something like an hour, if it's a huge software application, down to something like 10 to 15 minutes, which is much more manageable when you have 20 different things you have to try in a day. So now that the code is finished building, we get our main. We also get our test. Look at this. It's nice and packaged just to make unit tests right out of the box. It's organized. It's got a resources folder right here. It makes our resources folder for us. It sets them up as resource folders so the build tools will actually package it appropriately. If anyone has worked with resources within jar files, they can be a pain in the butt to work with, and how they end up getting named and copied in. Having these build tools makes it very easy to deal with that. So the coolest thing and the greatest thing I would say about using a build tool for like at home or personal Java development is when it comes time to actually like work with a library. In Java, that can be kind of a pain in the butt. You might go out to Maven Central, you might find the jar you need, then you're going to try to find a place to paste the jar, then you're going to paste the jar, and you're going to realize that, oh, I never put it on the class path for my Java application. I didn't go through all my settings to get it there, and it can be a giant pain in the butt. Let's see how easy it is to use this to do that. Let's go Javadoc for Discord, or not Java, just J for Discord for J. Javadoc for Discord is my thing. Okay, the fastest Discord API wrapper written in Java, and it should show us down here. Cool, look, it says Gradle, Maven, or SBT. Not sure what SBT is right now. But look at this, it actually gives us the nice dependencies block for Gradle. Since my file already has the word dependencies and the closure brackets, I don't need that. I'm going to say for implementation, I'll describe implementation in just a minute. Don't focus too much in on what implementation means, but more the purpose or the difference in being able to distinguish what source set or which configuration you want. Basically, you see here test implementation, we want the JUnit API, right? And test runtime only, we want the JUnit engine. So that's to say, when we're compiling, we don't need the engine that runs the tests. Let's make our compile faster by ignoring that and say test implementation. And then test runtime only, we only need it at the runtime. So that's interesting. For implementation, however, we actually need that on our class path to run the application. Our bot will not succeed without that. So we have to put it in the implementation. Now, Gradle has detected a change to its dependency block. I'm going to refresh this, and hopefully we should be able to look at it's going out, downloading all the jars. We just saw all those downloads happening lightning fast. Now we've got the jar on our class path. Gradle recognizes it, and I am able to use all of the classes to make the Discord bot. So Java bot main. I gotta find the API thing for this. I don't know the Discord for J API very well, but it's highly tangible for this example. Discord for J, and the browser's frozen again. GitHub sucks. GitHub doesn't suck. I also realize I'm kind of narrating this very, very casually, and I apologize if that ruins the recording. I'm always having fun. Yeah, so I need to find at least one class that makes it clear that we implemented this. So let's find Discord. Ah, Discord client, perfect. And I don't have all the configuration information to create one properly, but we have the whole Discord client built properly into our application. We're able to write a bot. If you knew what you were doing, you would have your Discord bot up and running, provided you already made the token for it in like 2 seconds from here. All because we used Gradle, and instead of downloading a jar and packaging it, editing our Java compilation statements, we took a line that the developers of this actually provided to us, implementation, boom. And that's not something special that Discord for J is doing for us. And let's reinforce that really quick. Maven Central. Maven Central. Okay. And now we're going to my Gmail. I prefer not. Maven Central. Awesome. Okay. Maven repository. So now here are a ton of repositories. A lot, mostly Java. Maven is for the Java ecosystem, but useful outside of there. You can do other things with it as well. But let's look for, let's say, CXF. That's an Apache library, great for web services. You don't need to know what CXF is. I actually encourage you to forget it even exists. But let's say we're interested in using it. Browser crashed, of course. Okay, we're back. Let's say we're interested in using CXF or arbitrarily anything else. We type it in here, we go here, we want the JAX-RS front-end package. What version do we want? There's all these different versions. Maybe I found out last week from my friend that 3.5.2 is so much better than 3.5.3, and they're going to delete 3.5.3 anyway. I want this one. We click on it. Oh, this is bad. This actually has vulnerabilities. We're going to pretend we don't click that one. Hopefully they fixed it. Oh, look at that. They fixed it in 3.5.3. So my friend was wrong. Cool. And yeah, so look at this, Maven. This is the Maven notation. What we're doing in that Gradle dependencies block there, it's very similar in Maven, but instead of in the build.gradle, you put it in pom.xml. We'll do a simple example for Maven and whatever. Gradle, long notation. Before Gradle got all syntactically fancy, you could do this big long notation to say it's the org.apache.cxf package. The name of the jar we're looking for is this CXF RT front-end jar JAX-RS or front-end JAX-RS version 3.5.3 or the new modern notation. Implementation, boom. It even gives you this comment to tell you exactly where you're getting it from. So if I were to look at a build script someone else wrote, where'd you find that, son? Right there. Cool. So the next thing is kind of cool about how powerful Gradle is. This isn't really relevant, but let's say we got this Maven notation, right? We got all this Maven notation. I'm going to paste it in here. This is Idea took, but I'll show you what I just see what it just came up on the screen. Look at this. This is what just came out on the screen, but this is what's on my clipboard. The IDE is smart enough to know that you're in a Gradle file, and there's a one-to-one, like a perfect mapping between Gradle and Maven for what they're accomplishing here. It does all the replacements for you. 100 out of 100 times it'll get these right. You can paste anything Maven dependency into Gradle, and it will make it Gradle if and only if you are in an IDE that has Gradle's plugin. IntelliJ has this. Eclipse has this. I even want to say NetBeans has it, but I haven't used NetBeans in ages, so I can't tell you for sure. Very neat. Let's say you use Ivy. Apache Ivy predates both Maven and Gradle. Well, there you go. Maybe you don't even know how Ivy works. At least you can get your dependency from Maven Central in Ivy. Grape. I've not heard of Grape, but boom, similar idea. Group, module, version, and you got it. So that is some cool version control integration stuff. All of that stuff works with Maven as well. I can go into new project, create a Maven file, and do everything I'm just showing you, but instead do it in pom.xml. Might not be the most useful, so you'll see if we can get through a couple more items here before I open up the floor for questions. Dependency management, we're showing dependency management, build.gradle, we're already in there. I just explained I'm not doing that. Documentation generation, we talked about this with the UML. We can talk a little bit more about the Javadoc though. So Javadoc, as you know, is a special type of comment that can be used to, oh, cool. Let's talk about some Javadocs. Okay, cool. Right click, JavaBot. This is a class name. I want to go to show context actions, add Javadoc. So awesome, Javadoc, cool. Okay, well now let's say I want a Javadoc for main. Show, add Javadoc. Oh, it adds the parameter notation, annotation for me right there. Perfect. The command line arguments. Now here's one of my favorites with Javadocs and documentation generation. We'll go in here, we're going to make another class. We'll call it our class string, class string equals money. Okay. So now we can type within brackets at link, what's it called, our class. And then we can do and this actually creates a symbolic link in our code where I can press Control-click to go to that file from the Javadoc comment directly. I really wish I didn't make that L capitalized. Let's go to refactor and rename it and drop the L. There we go. Okay, we've dropped the L. There we go. So this comment, and again, trivial when they're all in the same directory, but imagine you've got a directory structure over 10,000 folders and you've got this like, oh, you got the thing from the deepest bowels of the configs. Well, you can link right to it and other developers can go right there. Another thing not everybody uses with Javadoc comments, HTML. Hello. When this actually gets generated in Javadoc form, that's going to be bold. Any HTML generally renders pretty well on Javadocs. I'm sure you can find exceptions to that based on web browsers, but you can put HTML in there. Doesn't always look so great within the IDE. I'm sure you can get a plugin that makes it look better, but HTML and Javadocs. And then the other thing with that, tasks, documentation, Gradle out of the box through the IDE provides a Javadoc support button. So now what this is going to do, it's going to download the Javadocs, I think also for CXF and all the dependencies I've just added. And let's see what's wrong with it. Oh, this is an actual bug I introduced by not initializing that correctly. Forget that exists and run Javadoc again. Oh, I should have linked to the Discord API classes. That would have been more useful. Awesome. Okay, Javadoc has been built. It's probably in the build folder. Everything in Gradle goes to build, docs. Whoa, all my Javadoc classes right here with a click of a button. I didn't even need to configure it. Oh, I'm not in my web browser. What do? I click on the web browser because it detects HTML. Here's all our classes. We have JavaBot and our class. Let's go to our class. Whoa, it's our class. It's our constructor summary. It's got it all. And that's exciting to me. Very easy. You can do that. The JDK, you can do that right out of the box with simple projects, just Javadoc and then your jar name or whatever, and it should do this for you. But Gradle makes it easier than ever. You can ignore certain source sets. Let's say you want to make a restrictive API for people, like a plugin development kit of your own, and you don't want people using the deep internals, and you want to keep the Javadocs out of the automated task that would go through and put them in there. This allows you to configure that as well. I was hoping to show some simple examples of how the plugin SDK works and maybe develop a simple IntelliJ plugin, but we are far out of time to do that. So I would like to open the floor for any questions. Anyone wants me to revisit something I've shown, explain something deeper. I'm happy to take those now. Yeah. Yeah. Like all of it. Yeah. So there's some things like Java is very, very strongly typed. So it has a lot of good time inferring things and grabbing things and highlighting things for you. But yeah, yeah, there's a lot of this. At the very least, you should have the refactor support. You should have some of the code generation. And there are even other solutions to Java in avoiding some of this stuff. There's something called Project Lombok, which allows you to just make annotations like @getter above your method, and or above your member, and it'll make a getter that you never see, but it ends up in the class file. Another cool thing I should mention while I talk about class files, IntelliJ has a built-in decompiler. So if you ever want to see why your class is funky or something's not working, you can actually open the class file and it will tell you it's decompiled, but you might be able to see some optimizations that the compiler is making that you're not even aware of and troubleshoot errors that way. So yes, it does exist outside of places like, or outside of IntelliJ as well. Definitely Eclipse, NetBeans has most of it. Visual Studio, like big Visual Studio, like C# Visual Studio, like all of this, and then some with cloud support on top of that. Visual Studio Code has most of it. As much as I like to criticize it for Java, it does have most of these features for it as well. Yeah. I also wanted to show the GUI thing, but that'll be better for next week anyway. I would also like to say next week I'm doing a workshop on GUI development, and we're going to be using a lot of these nifty IDE tricks to pump out like multiple GUI applications, fully working, tested, ready to go within about the same time frame. And it'll be a great reinforcer of all this. And the goal is going to be like, hey, how to develop these things efficiently, how to not stop working and just get it done without spending much of any time typing stuff. If anyone's ever programmed Swing by hand, it is a pain in the ass. It is. And yeah, we hope to streamline that next week and get you writing like a pro. So yeah, once more, any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But otherwise, I hope that you all enjoy your night.